Let's go.
What's up, guys? Another week down of prep, down around a pound this week, which I'm really happy with considering my macros and calories had stayed the same. This video I actually wanted to structure a little bit differently and go into a bit more detail on my training program, try and make the video a little bit more informative on why I train with a high frequency, why I train muscles 3 to 4 times per week, as opposed to a more traditional body part split or something along those lines. I also want to go into a bit more detail on how I'm actually tracking my progress through prep, because that's a really important aspect of any weight loss progress. Now, we can get really caught up in specific numbers when we're tracking weight loss progress, and it's really easy for that to cause us a lot of mental stress. Specifically, scale weight seems to be the one that really gets to people. And I work with some clients that really just aren't comfortable weighing themselves consistently at all. And you have to understand that that's just fine. There's many different ways that we can track progress. I think one of the best ways to do it is just go by how you feel and how you feel like you're looking. Those are going to be the most rewarding changes, when you can actually see it in the mirror and you're going to feel different. Those are going to be the ones that keep you motivated to keep pushing and maybe even keep pushing a little bit harder. But it's really useful to have specific data that we can use to track progress. And we have to remember that any measurement we use, whether it's body fat percentage or scale weight or something else along those lines, we have to remember that it's just data. It does not define us. Scale weight is going to fluctuate a massive amount from day to day, or it certainly can fluctuate a massive amount from day to day. An example is actually this past Wednesday, I woke up at 226.6. So I was up about 4 pounds from what I was the day before. Now, I didn't freak out about it. I knew that it was natural. And the next day, sure enough, I was down a few pounds. And then Friday, I actually ended up with a new low weigh-in. So you have to understand that if you are going to be tracking scale weight, you're not necessarily looking for a completely accurate reading every day. You're looking for consistent reading. So then you can see the overall trend, whether it's down or up. I think body fat percentage is generally a little bit uncomfortable for people to test. Something like skin calipers, it's kind of time consuming. If you have access to like an in-body scale or something like that, it can be helpful to have another barometer of measure, but I generally don't have people focus on body fat percentage measurements too much. Many of the reading techniques are just far too inaccurate, and you will get a lot of variation even if you do it, one right after the other. Now, in terms of my training program, I think the best way for me to actually explain how I train and why I train the way that I do is to do a voiceover of a workout that I'm going to play right after this. So I hope this gives you guys insight into high frequency training. It might be new to you, and I'm going to give you guys some tips on how you might actually implement some of these higher frequency training methods into your own programs.
Now, I've been training with a high-frequency program for about 1.5 years now, and I've certainly made my best progress with it. What we have to keep in mind is that new lifters are going to respond to stimulus much differently than experienced trainees, and generally experienced trainees will need more stimulus to maximize their potential. Now, there's been a lot more studies recently looking at how many times a week is optimal to train a muscle for maximum results. And probably the most high profile of these studies was the Norwegian Frequency Project. Now, the Norwegian Frequency Project really carried a lot of weight because it was one of the first very robust studies done on very advanced trainees. They actually used the Norwegian powerlifting team. And what they did is they split them up into 2 groups, one training 3 days per week, so lower frequency, and the other group training higher frequency at 6 days per week. They found substantial benefits in both strength and hypertrophy for the 6-day per week group. Now, this isn't the only evidence we have in support of high-frequency training, and I know Brad Schoenfeld has actually done quite a bit of work looking at some meta-analyses of previous studies, and he and his colleagues determined that at the bare minimum, it seems to maximize potential, we want to train a muscle at least twice per week. So, if you want to train a muscle twice per week, you could do something like a push-pull leg split, and then rotate back through that 2 times through the week. If you truly want to maximize your potential, especially as you become a more advanced trainee, I think it may be beneficial, and some of the research does show, that maybe even a higher frequency, up to even 4 to 5 times per week, may be beneficial. Now we have to consider that some muscle groups are probably going to respond better, or if not respond better, we'll just be able to train some muscles with higher frequency. An example of that is arm training. Arms generally tend to recover pretty quickly for people, whereas if I was going to have someone train legs 5 days a week, that might be asking a little bit too much of them. Now, it did take me quite a bit of time to fine-tune a program that had me training with a higher frequency, that wasn't too much volume to the point that I couldn't recover from workout to workout, and importantly, was also a workout that I enjoyed. So the basic structure of the workout is kind of a modified push-pull leg split. So workout A is a high-volume lower body day with low-volume pulling motions and resting pushing motions. Then workout B is a high-volume push day with low-volume legs and rest pulling motions. Then workout C is a high-volume pulling day, low-volume pushing day, and resting legs. So I cycle back through workout A, B, and C through the week. I don't actually schedule my rest days. I just listen to my body and decide when I need a rest day. I generally train 5 to 7 days per week. Now, as far as arm and other accessory smaller muscles go, I actually find that I'm able to train those with even higher frequency. So my arms were something that I really wanted to bring up over the last year. So I put a lot of emphasis on training them with high frequency. And I found that I was able to train arms, albeit with lower volume per day, about 5 days per week with a lot of success. Now, high-frequency training can seem a little bit complicated at face value, but once you start doing it, it does make a lot more sense. You do have to be a bit more conscious about your training to make sure that you, one, not getting too much volume and then therefore not able to recover from your workouts, but two, that you actually are getting sufficient volume for every muscle. So if you want to start experimenting with some high-frequency training, I actually recommend starting with arms, because you could even leave the rest of your program the same. Start training arms with a higher frequency but lower per session volume. Maybe start 3 to 5 days per week and just see how you like it. So that's the basics of high-frequency training and the way I have my high-frequency training program set up. If you have any questions about high-frequency training, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments, and I'll also be doing more videos going into a little bit more detail in certain aspects of the training program. Thanks again for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back next Monday with another update log of prep.